Your circle will change as you accomplish your goals and level up. Everybody can't go.
And we live. Y'all love my love. Clap, clap thing. I am going to get one of those one day, you guys. I'm gonna actually get the clap thing. So happy Wednesday. Welcome to another Everybody Can't Go Convo. Y'all know I'm always bringing y'all some of the bombest people I know in life. Like, not just random folks that I'm like, oh yeah, I saw them on such and such and such. Like, look, I am super excited today. Today, I'm bringing to one of you guys, one of my coaches who, when I tell you every week, he waxing deep, it's on fire. And just from the notes and things that I've taken, like, I can't even put it into words right now. I'm so excited that you guys will be able to experience like just the skosh of what I'm able to be exposed to every week, as far as the teaching, as far as just some of the words of wisdom that have been imparted on my life, that I'm literally at the end of the session, I am able to start using them. I am able to start putting this stuff into action, and week over week over week, like, it's helped me to move the needle and make a big difference. So today I am bringing to you guys Mr. Ben Bakayoko of BenBak Coaching. Hey Ben, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks. I appreciate the warm introduction. You rock, Jessi. Let's go. All love. Yeah. My heart is off shape, but yeah, there it is. This fireworks. My heart.
So tell us a bit about your coaching program and what things you have going on right now.
Yeah. So, my name is Ben Bakayoko. I'll tell you guys a little bit about myself and the program, just so you guys know my background and what I do. So yeah, I'm originally from Ivory Coast. Came to the U.S. when I was young. So growing up as an African, like I had low self-esteem for the most of my life, right? Why? Because I talk with an accent. Jessi said my last name, which is Bakayoko. So I used to get teased at school for that. So they used to call me Ben Bakahoho, Ben Bakayoyo, and all that other stuff. Plus, my mom used to cook at home. And what that means is we didn't use traditional air fresheners. So now my clothes smell like spices and stuff like that. And then I had nappy hair and stuff like that. So my beard isn't as, as combed as I would like for this Joker, but I'm okay with myself now. So it doesn't bother me as much now. But back in the day, it used to bother me a lot. And therefore, I grew up with a low self-esteem. And it wasn't until I got into college where I met some Nigerians, Jessi, and bruh, they were confident. They didn't even know how to speak English, but they were confident. I'm like, where they do that? Right? So I'm just like, so I had to kind of like study them and find out like what they were confident. They were confident in their education, and they also kind of like knew what they wanted out of life. And that's what gave them confidence. It was self-awareness and authenticity. So from there, I was just like, bro, I need to build my confidence. And around the same time, I finally got exposed to personal development. One, because I did network marketing and they send you personal development stuff so you could be promote their stuff, but also because every Thursday and every Tuesday a professional speaker came and they would drop fire. And that's how I met or whatever. And this was probably maybe 10 years ago, 2012 or 11 years ago. Wow, almost 12 years ago. Crazy, right? So at that moment, it's just like, you know what? I love what these people have done for me. I want to do this for other people. That was 12 years ago. So I had a goal and a dream of being a coach. Like somebody listening has a goal and a dream that seems far-fetched right now, right? So that was me. And Jessi is just like, I'm living a dream now 10 years later off the strength that I don't have a job anymore. I'm literally my own business owner. And I quit my job to coach full-time maybe 3 years ago. And I've been able to generate cash in my bank account, not just sales, close to $500,000, which is in the past 3 years. Jessi, I did the numbers. I've made more money than I made in the first 5 years of my adult life. Right?
Come on.
Yeah. Right. And then that's just for me. I don't do this for me. I've also helped people not just transform their own lives, like their health, their their relationships, their finances, their business, And as far as business, because I was traditionally a business coach, even though my heart is in life coaching, like I've been able to help my clients generate close to $3 million over the past 3 years as well. Right. So
Okay. He
that's
dropped
where
the
I'm
stats
at
for
in terms
y'all.
of business. Yeah. All right. So I could go into a little bit more details in terms of what I'm doing in my coaching business right now, or if you have any questions or comments based off what I shared so far in the intro.
No, you go ahead and wax. Let us know what you have going on in the company right now. If there's anything coming up that folks may be interested in. And you guys know, as always, we'll make sure that we get those social handles and any information so that you can reach out. We'll have that in the show notes for you below.
Yeah, so last year was a really tough year for me, and we could be transparent on this call because, I quit my job to kind of like coach full time. One, because in my mind, I was just like, yo, I need to serve God. So most of you listening, like, let me know if you resonate with me and Jessi's values. And I kind of know Jessi's values because we coach and we're friends. But it's just like for the longest time in that 10-year journey, right? I was just like, what I want my values to be: God first, family second, business third. Like, comment something in the comments of this video if you felt that desire. It's just like, yo, I want the triple double. I want to have God. I want to have awesome relationships. And I want that cash in the bank account, right? Or a business or whatever. So that's what I've always wanted. However, life didn't pan out that way, right? So we have midlife crises. We have quarter life crises. Yo, Jessi, guess what my daughter told me 3 days ago that I'd never heard her say before?
What?
She's like, I'm in the mood. I'm like, what's that? Right? I'm just like, what's that? Right? So it's just like what happens is we get older and we get into moods because our life isn't meeting our expectations. And that's what it was for me. So instead of making God, family, and business last, it was work, money first, right? Family second, and God didn't get no life. Right. And so when I decided to quit my job to coach full time, I told myself, like, yo, I'm going to make God first. Right. Because I had made the excuse like, yo, God, I don't have enough time to worship. And he was just like, you lying. I was just like, what do you mean? He was just like, well, you're spending how many hours at work? I'm just like 50 to 60 hours. Right. And so what you're telling me, Ben, is you value working and making money more than you value your relationship with me. And the only reason you value working and making money more than your relationship with me is because you think you getting paid from your job when you don't understand I'm providing for you like I'm providing for the birds. So your job is getting the bread, the income, and all of the support from me. So it's just like I'm giving it through you, just getting it from your job. And if you just had a little bit more faith and confidence, you wouldn't need the job. You could come straight to the source and I could give you more. I was just like, oh, that's how we play this game. So I was just like, I bet. Right. So I was just like, yo, God, I'm out. I have enough confidence now, and I'm going to trust that you're going to take care of me. And he did. Right. So once I made that transition, God was the primary focus for my life, and I did make money. But of course, what ends up happening is just like, yo, on the journey, like there's no final destination. On your way, like you slip. And last year I slipped where it's just like God went, it was God first, family second, business third. And all of a sudden, God slipped right back to the bottom over the course of 2 years. And so last year I suffered where it's just like, yo, I was so focused on making money and not serving that I was just like, bro, I don't need money. I was just like, yo, it ain't worth it. Like the stress, the work that I got to go through in order to make this money, I got enough cash in the bank account. I'm going to chill. And I chilled, and I didn't really enjoy the quality of my life, and I didn't enjoy the clients that I was working with at the time. So I went into like a really depressive state all of last year and kind of like dialed back. So I recommitted to God December of last year in 2023. And I'm just like, yo, you know what? I have enough money. I'm going to slow down, and I'm going to really focus on serving. Not because it makes me feel good or to help other people, because I know that's what you need from me. And as a result, I've partnered with Carl from Eric Thomas and Associates. And what we have is this community called Grounds Crew. He launched a book, so I highly recommend getting this book. And when you get a copy of this book, you get access to our community. And guess what we do? We coach people for free for 2 hours every single Thursday, right? So you can come into the community. And if you want access to additional coaching after that, like we can kind of like support you there. And then plus we do live events as well. So that's what I'm currently doing as far as coaching.
Okay, cool. And so we'll make sure that you guys get those links. And if you haven't noticed, one of my books that stays in the background. That is the Moving Past Potential book. It stays in the background. And that is one of the amazing reads. As a matter of fact, you know what, you just sparked the thought for me. I should make a Jessi's favorites book list. That's what I should do, because y'all know I love reading, and I'm always grabbing a new book from someone that I've either met, heard speak, and just the information that's in there. When I tell you there's something for everybody in that book, like it's fire. It's fire. There's an audio version available and everything. So moving into you were talking about that flip-flop back and forth between like the struggle to keep God first. So that kind of reminds me of one of the things that you have taught on over the years, is the concept of understanding yourself and others, understanding others. And I wanted to find out now, for you guys that missed the workshop a couple of weeks ago, the Learning Yourself workshop. We dove into this a little bit, okay? So if I bring it back, make sure that you hop on the train the next time, or possibly get that replay back.
Oh, no doubt.
But talk to us a bit about the that concept of getting to know yourself first, so that you're able to understand others.
Yeah. So I call it the 3 steps to mastery, and I got to shout out to Eric Thomas and also Mustafa Goman, because I started off as an extreme execution coach, and they have something called a DISC assessment, which is the personality profile, right? And they kind of like talk about 4 basic personality types, where the first one is like a high D, where they're really driven and decisive. The second one is kind of like a high I, and that means they're just influential. And what that really means is social. Like, they can communicate clearly and they can get people on board. They got what we call charisma, right? And then you got the high S's, which is who I am. Which is a high S, who they like to call a grounds crew in our community. And all that means is just like, yo, they're stability driven. They're what's it called? They like to keep stuff together. They're the glue that holds communities and people together, and even families together, right? And if there ain't anything, they're consistent. So if you need something done, get it to them, and they'll do it for the long haul, right? And then finally, you got high C's, which we call air traffic controllers, and they just like really technical and stuff like that. So those are the 4 types of personalities. And number one, you got to understand who you are. Once you understand who you are, you got to understand who you're dealing with, right? And then from that, then you got to actually work with who you're dealing with. So I figured out the 3 steps to mastery, where the first step is self-awareness and authenticity. And what that means, like, we all hear this term self-awareness. What the hell does that really mean? All that means is conscious awareness. And remember, conscious awareness, right? Because our minds, most of the stuff we do is habitual, which means we don't think about it. Why would our mind do that to us? Because literally every single day, like right now, Jessi, as you're listening to me, there's so much going around that your mind isn't processing. Because right now you're listening to the sound of my voice, you're looking at me, and as a result, guess what you probably forgot? That your eyes are blinking. Right? Right now, you're not realizing that your tongue is probably stuck to you're not feeling the sensations in your tongue. Now you did. You just touched the upper part of your tongue or the bottom part of your tongue. So there's so many stimuli that's happening right now that it will literally fry your brain if you paid attention to everything at the same time. So that's why we develop habits to keep us safe and secure. So your mind only focuses, I forget the guy's name, but it's just like, yo, our mind literally distorts, deletes, and generalizes information so that we could find information and focus on information that's going to keep us safe and help us survive. And what that means is we're not going to burn, mental calories on anything that we don't think is going to make us survive or entertain us. And so guess what? Because our desire or our brain is wired to keep us safe and not happy, is not going to help us become more aware. So we're not going to be aware of what we think. We're not going to be aware of what we feel. And we're not going to be aware of what causes us to act and behave the way that we are. So that's self-awareness, conscious awareness of your thoughts, your feelings, and actions. Also your beliefs. And then once you're aware of your thoughts, your feelings, and your actions, and you don't like them, you make a decision on who you're going to be moving forward. You create a new identity for yourself. And then the hardest thing to do once you decide that you want to change is to be authentic, which means I don't care what my mom, my brother, my sister, or anybody in the world thinks. I'm going to do me. Think Kanye. Like, yo, people give Kanye hell for being authentic, but we love him because he's authentic. And my challenge for most of my life is once I decided I wanted to be this version of me, like, yo, I got it from my wife, I got it from my mom, I got it from friends, I got it from everybody. Can't go. Like, that's literally what you're reaching. Right? Where it's just like, yo, there's gonna be people that's gonna disagree with the new you. And the test of self-awareness and authenticity is, can you decide to be that person despite external or even internal pressures where you're just like, yo, I'm trying to be this business owner, but I don't think I could do it. Bump that brain. Yes, you can. So that's self-awareness and authenticity. I go to any thoughts or comments on that before I go to the second part?
As you were talking about the way that people don't want to accept like that new version of you, it started to make me think about I can't really think of it's just wild to me that if the new you is something that a person that is all of a sudden you just start doing a bunch of wild negative stuff. It's like, oh, well, what's wrong with you? But if you're making positive changes, people still have the same reaction. Oh,
Yeah.
what's wrong with you? And so like it gives a new meaning to that. Pardon my French, y'all, but I don't know if y'all mama said it, but my mama did. The damned if you do, damned if you don't. And it's almost like whatever changes you make, and it's wild that they could be negative changes or positive changes. And people from the outside, they're so, I don't want to say afraid of change, but so against change that it doesn't matter whether you're doing something good or something bad. Just the fact that you're changing ruffles other people's feathers.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's exactly the root and the heart of everybody can go. Because when you are making those positive changes and things, because of course I'm not telling y'all everybody can't go so you can go do some foolishness. Y'all know I ain't about that. But when you're moving on to get to that, whatever is your next level, your higher level, and you're looking at ways to improve yourself, to become a better version of you, becoming you 2.0, 2.5, 2.7. We have no problem with upgrading the phone. Every time iOS like, hey, we made some improvements, everybody like, oh, now my phone does such and such and such and such. We be super geeked about that. When it's about something, could it be useful? Yeah. But let a person, every time you make those small incremental updates to yourself,
Yeah.
you know, some of the folks around you like,
I'm ready to go. I want to jump back in here, right? Just because you mentioned iOS, right? And just so it could stick in, like, understand change in the beginning is always uncomfortable, right? So I remember in college, they were just like, yo, there's no growth in comfort and there's no comfort in growth.
that's good.
No growth in comfort and no comfort in growth. So right now on the self-awareness journey and authenticity, understand you can stay who you are. Long term, it won't be comfortable. Because eventually life is going to happen, is going to force you to grow, right? You're going to get a divorce. One of your kids are going to get in trouble. They're going to get sick. You're going to get fired. Something always happens that kicks us out of that comfort zone, right? Joe Dispenza has this saying that he's just like, yo, we could either change in the state of happiness and joy or pain and suffering. He's just like, most humans choose to change in pain and suffering. It doesn't have to be that way, right? And there's two pains and sufferings, right? One is you could choose, what's it called? I got this from Dream Ryan. You could either choose the pain of discipline or the pain of regret. Either way, there's going to be pain. You get to choose, right? So the pain of regret is just like, yo, I should have done this. I should have quit my job earlier. I should have been more serious in my relationship earlier, but now I'm doing it. That can be you 3, 6, 12 months. Or you could choose the pain of discipline and do something difficult that you know is going to pay off long term, right? So the first step is self-awareness and authenticity. The second step is getting to the point where you understand, accept, and appreciate other people for who they are, not who you want them to be. So that's the second step. And as it relates to the iOS comment, bruh, I've been on Mac for a while now. Jess, guess what pissed me off? I don't know if you know, but before iPhones, instead of this thing right
Oh.
here, they had the earphones. Right? And I was just like, what happened? I want the headphones. I wasn't aware that they was making AirPods. So I was pissed. Right? But Steve Jobs or Apple's community didn't care what I wanted. They knew what was beneficial for me. They knew what I needed long term.
Mm-hmm.
I was tripping about USBs. I'm not tripping on that no more. Does that make sense? We got the cloud now. Right?
Right.
So when it comes to understanding, accepting, and appreciating where other people are, where we go wrong is first we don't understand where they're coming from. So I was pissed at Apple because I didn't understand their long-term vision. Right? And if you don't understand, it's going to be really hard to accept the circumstance or the situation. And if you can't accept the circumstance or situation, you can't really appreciate the person. And that's where all the conflict comes in. So, Jess, I think you remember when I said this, like what ultimately happens, like whenever we want to change and we don't, it's generally because of other people, right? And I remember I dealt with this with my mom a lot because that was the person that couldn't come, right? And the reason, here's another saying, right? I like dropping quotes, right? We've all heard you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time
with. Check in for Top 5 Tuesday, y'all.
Oh, no doubt, right? And that's so important because what happens is right now you're self-aware, you created this new identity and you want to grow and you're going to set these high standards for yourself. And when you set these high standards for yourself and you're the smartest person in your circle, what tends to happen is if you don't find a new circle, you're going to stay around the people that don't support the new you. And 2 things are going to happen. Either you're going to get pissed off and frustrated with them, or slowly but surely you're going to drop your standards to where they are just so you can fit in and be loved and accepted by them. And so what I realized I had to do was love my family and friends, choose some new peers. So just because I found the new community doesn't mean like I ain't cool. Me and my mom, we good. Me and my old friends, we good. I'm not looking for support. I'm looking for challenge. So when you choose a peer group, they're going to challenge you. Your friends and family are going to support you. And what support means is just like they're going to validate your BS. Right? You're going to give them excuses. They're going to be like, okay, right? They're not going to challenge you and be like, oh, okay, what that happened? What can you do better next time? How can you make this adjustment? They're not going to challenge you. And when you don't find that support group and you stay in your current community, what ultimately ends up happening is 2 things. One, let me share the quote first. I got it from Inky. It's just like, you could tell the truth without love is hypocrisy, and love without the truth. No, he said the truth without love is brutality, and love without the truth is hypocrisy. I repeat it. He said the truth without love is brutality, and then love without the truth is hypocrisy. So I had this challenge with my mom. I'm just like, I love my mom, but I wasn't telling her the truth about how I felt. And I was just like, I don't want to tell her the truth because I don't want to hurt her feelings. I don't want her to think I'm a bad son. So I sat on the truth for a long time. And I sat on it so long, Jess. And I remember when I got to a point where it's just like, bro, I thought the thought. And I was just like, I got to tell her the truth after I thought this thought. Don't judge me, Jess. I literally thought the thought my life would be easier if my mom wasn't here. I was just like, what the heck did I just think? Right? And it only happened because I wasn't telling her how I really felt, what she was really doing, and how it impacted the quality of my life. Right? Because I'm just like, I don't want to ruffle any feathers. Right? Somebody like Jessica, who's a high D generally, they might tell the truth. Right? And right? And when they tell the truth, it don't come across lovingly. So the other person feels attacked and judged. Right? So some other people have that pattern. That hasn't been my pattern. Right? So I had to tell her the truth so she didn't feel judged. And the only reason I struggled with that is because I didn't understand her behavior. Remember? First, you got to self-aware and authentic. I understand what I was dealing with. I understand the new version of me that I needed to become. And because I have a family, I had to, one, understand where my mom was coming from. Right? She was just like, your dad died. You're the only person I got. And that's why I'm relying on you so heavily. I'm like, all right, cool, bet. So I understand that, right? Now I gotta accept the fact that, yo, she's relying on me super heavily. And what really would used to piss me off, she'd ask me to do stuff at the last minute. So she was making her emergencies mine. So one, I had to accept the fact that I choose to, it was my choice to stop what I was doing and respond to her emergency. And whenever I would stop and respond to her emergency, even though like I'm sure you've had this experience where you're stressing yourself thin, and you're like, because I love this person, I'm gonna stop what I'm doing so I could go and support them. And then you go do what you need to do for them. And they're mad. I was just like, yo, what's going on here? Like, you just asked me for help and you mad that I helped? And she wasn't mad that I helped. She mad that I didn't do it to her expectations. So her thing is just like, yo, if you're going to do it right the first time. But because I was so confused, overwhelmed, and frustrated, and I just did it, I gave it like 20%. And she was like, yo, where the other 80? So I had to get to the point where it's just like, yo, mom, you asked me to do too much. And so what's going to happen is I'm going to tell you no a little bit more often. So when I do it, I give you 120%. So you have nothing to complain about. Because if I keep doing this, you're going to get mad because I didn't do it right. And I'm going to get mad because you got mad. So I'm going to take control and be like, you know what? I understand your situation. I need you to understand my situation and accept the fact that I can't do everything you ask me for, but I can do the most important thing you ask me for. And then I'm going to help support you in all of the other things when I can. So I'm not stretching myself thin, right? And then as a result, now I can actually appreciate where she is and appreciate her for who she are. So even though she continuously blows me up, I'm like, that's okay. That's mom being mom. I'll get to her when I get to her. And she understands that. So guess what she doesn't do anymore, Jess?
Ask you stuff at the last minute.
She done ask me for stuff at the last minute. She done blow me up. We got a scheduled time to talk and we list out everything that needs to get done and we get it done. But I had to understand where she was coming from. I had to accept that, yo, things aren't always going to go into plan. And sometimes I can make the adjustments, sometimes that I can't. So I had to accept that. She had to accept that. And then also, what's it called? Now we have love and appreciation in the relationship. There's something else that I wanted to add, but I'll let you share whatever you want to share before I make that point.
Oh, you go ahead. Keep going.
Oh, so the point that I wanted to make as it relates to this change thing, sometimes what happens is when people say you've changed, sometimes what they mean is you've grown.
Key message, y'all.
Right? And they don't know how to articulate that because most people don't grow. And sometimes the people closest to you are afraid of you growing because what that really means is you're leaving in their mind. Right? And so what we really got to understand that, like, that's a delicate process. So one, only you see your vision. And that's why the self-awareness and authenticity piece is so strong. Staying true to who you are, regardless of external pressures. They don't see your vision. And what that means, they don't understand you. And because they don't understand you, they can't accept the fact that you're growing and going in a different direction. And as a result, they can't appreciate what you're trying to do for them. Where just like, I remember running into conflict where I'm working extra hard and I'm just like, yo, I'm doing this for you. And whoever's complaining is just like, what? They didn't understand, accept, or appreciate. And part of it was my fault because I couldn't articulate it. And part of it is their fault because they just don't get it. So a prime example of this is most of you listen, I'm assuming know Eric Thomas. Like, yo, when he decided to quit his job and talk to a computer screen for free on YouTube, his wife was just like, yo, what you doing? Like, yo, you making 6 figures or more, right? And the same thing with CJ. It was just like, what? You going not, yo, bro, you got a master's degree. You just going to do the Mickey Mouse Club with E and Pro Speed videos? So every time Jim, Carl, and E was meeting, their wives would make fun of him like, yo, this is Mickey Mouse Club. They're not putting food on the table. And it took them years before they generated income. But now they have a multi-million-dollar company. Why? Because they self-awareness and authenticity. They stood true to who they were, and they could see this vision, and they stuck through it. And the people that didn't understand then understand, accept, and appreciate it now. And they're just like, yo, I'm happy you ain't listening to me.
That's real. That's real. Now, if you guys like, come on, y'all. I don't know how many episodes we in yet, but you should have already copped your Right Division journal. And a lot of what Ben talked about, that is exactly why I'm so big on making sure that you actually write down what your vision for your life is, because some of those decisions that he's talked about making when it comes to your growth and forward movement, one, How do you know what growth you need to make or where you're going, why you're doing it, if you don't know what that final destination is? And so that's why I'm always so big on, you guys, make sure you grab your Write the Vision journal, go through the prompts. You aren't going to do it all in one session, because you're literally, especially if you've just never thought about it, you've kind of just had thoughts here and there of like, oh, I think this is a vision that I have for my life. Like, really step by step, walking through and writing it down, because you need to write the vision and make it plain. God ain't say type it. And like actually think about, what are those things that you want to get accomplished? What is that vision that you have for your life? And a lot of times that's a starting point for why some people are so stagnant and just kind of, you get complacent and just stay in the right place. Because if you don't think about it too much, really, we kind of grow up doing what our parents say. We do grow up and we're kind of trained with the way that we're raised into like, oh, what do you want to be when you grow up? And half the time, an adult doesn't give you a chance to say, think about it, because, in your little 5-year-old child mind, it may take you a few minutes. And also based upon what you've seen so far, and it's like, do you want to be a doctor, a lawyer? Do you want to be an astronaut? And it's like, they'll just throw out the same 5 random thing. And it's like, I want to impress the adult in my life. Yes, I want to be a doctor. And that thought becomes implanted in your head, and you don't really think about it until, you get to high school, and it's like, okay, so what are you majoring in? I'm going pre-med. The fact that you just have to say, are you going pre-med? Or were you just always told and taught that you were supposed to go pre-med? And a lot of times, we all, who don't got that friend that did like 5 different majors in college, and they just kept switching their major, switching their major, switching their major. One, you didn't have enough exposure to decide what job you would want to have in the first place and what you were pursuing. And all honesty, I in undergrad, I got a degree in theater. So I got a bachelor in fine arts. And of course, people like, oh, you ain't gonna make no money doing that. You have to live in your car. Like every actor's story is not gonna be a Tyler Perry story. And then also there are so many other aspects to theater that there are people making a very decent living. We need directors, we need writers, we need light and sound crews, like all of those different elements that, if you are not within that art form, it's kind of like you listening to some random people that don't even know what it takes to put on a production, because they only see the production. They don't see nobody that's backstage. And sometimes I think that when we're moving forward and making choices in life, is because we're listening to people that don't know nothing that's going on backstage, but they are so sure about what we're supposed to be doing.
Oh, come on. Jess, you on it. And Jess, yeah. So I could endorse the Write the Vision journal, right? Not just the journal, but also the process of thinking. So one of the things that I often say, Jessi, and this is why, finding the journal, like ideally Jessi's, but if you don't get Jessi's for whatever reason, still think on paper, right? Oh, I learned that in college. Like one of the speakers came, he said, like, the secret to being ultra rich and successful is to think on paper. And what we got to understand is 1% of people think, 5% of people think they think, and then 95% of humans would rather die than think. Right? So that begs the question, what is thinking? Thinking is nothing more than the process of asking yourself questions and then answering those same questions. We all talk to ourselves. And we're like, why did they do that? Because they're a jerk. Why did they do that? Because they're stupid. You just asked yourself a question and then you answered it. That's thinking. Right? Why does this always happen to me? Because you suck. Right? That's thinking, right? And that's what our brains is doing. Like 95% of our thoughts, they're repetitive and it's negative, and that's what's happening, right? So we've all heard of the book Think and Grow Rich. And it's just like when you read the book, they're just like, read the book, get through all of these chapters, and you'll discover the secret. My coach, Bob Proctor, was just like, bro, you don't need to read the entire book. The secret is in the title. Think and grow rich. Not work and grow rich, not overwhelm yourself to grow rich. It's to think. And thinking is that process of asking yourself questions and answering those questions. And the best way to do that is on paper. because what the mind does, again, a lot of our thoughts are repetitive and they loop. They're repetitive. And what that means is they're redundant. And what that really means is we don't really think, we ruminate. Something bad happens, and then we can't stop ourselves from thinking a specific line of thoughts automatically about it, right? And then we can't even stop ourselves from stopping thinking. And what that really means is right now, I think I did this with Jess on a call where I'm just like, yo, think of the color blue, think of the color blue, think of the color blue. Now stop thinking of the color blue. Stop. Don't think about it. Don't think about it. Don't think about it. And then you just keep thinking about the color blue. So you're just like, yo, I want to be rich and successful. And your mind is just like, you can't. And you can't stop yourself from thinking. How do you eliminate that? Thinking on paper. So in the beginning of this conversation, the way we started was we were just like, yo, 3 steps to master. We're only going to have time to go through 2. But I'll just give everybody all 3, and then hopefully you catch, Jess invites me later, or you guys discover this on your own. But so far, we said the first step is self-awareness and authenticity. The second step is getting to the point where you understand, accept, and appreciate people for who they are, and not who you want them to be, right? Because what we think is like, yo, people resist change. No, people resist being changed, and we be legit trying to change and manipulate people instead of getting people to change for their reasons and not ours, right? The third step to mastery is getting to the point where you can adjust and adapt who you are based on people, circumstances, and situations so you can make the most out of each situation, right? And that's how you become a better parent. That's how you become a better business person. That's how you become a better friend. That's how you become a better lover. That's how you start to change your life in the world. You start with you. But the point I was going to make after I said all of this was, remember when we talked about self-awareness and authenticity, and that shift to being authentic is so hard, is because, yo, change is painful in the beginning, right? And we have 2 choices. We're going to either deal with the pain of regret or the pain of discipline. And one of the disciplines I highly recommend that Jess is also recommending is that we journal and think on paper. So I posted something in our community that, Jess, if it's okay, I'll share the screen so I can kind of like make this point. So screen share. Let's see. Window. I don't even know if you saw this post yet, but what's it called? I posted this, right? It says, no risk, no reward. No pain, no growth. No trauma, no death. No honesty, no clarity. No trust, no friendship. No discipline, no talent. No commitment, no love, no investment, no wealth, no self-reflection, no peace, no courage, no self-esteem, no imagination, no opportunity. So what that says, life is both 50-50. Life isn't always good. Life isn't always bad. It's a mix of both, right? So we got to choose what pain we're going to deal with and what rewards we want to get on the back end. And most of us don't take the time to think through that because we don't think on paper. We react. So this is a quote that I live by as well. I got this from Tony Robbins. He's just like, yo, losers react, leaders anticipate. Right? So we got to think these things through in advance. So clarity is power, right? So in order to be self-aware and authentic, you need clarity, right? In order to, once you get that clarity, in order to remain authentic, you need proximity to people that have done what you want to do already and are going to not just support you, but challenge you to stay authentic to what you put on paper. Because in the beginning, it's not going to feel comfortable. Why? Because remember, 95% of our thoughts, feelings, or actions are dominated by our subconscious mind. And when we try to change, 5% of our conscious mind is fighting against 90%, 95% of our old selves. So you're complaining about the other person not supporting you. You don't even support you. right? They're just fuel to the fire. Right? So it's just like, yo, how do you change? Like you gotta put these thoughts on paper. And the reason why this is so important, like we gotta really understand what drives us as humans means, right? Because what we've discovered, Jess, is just like, yo, most people want to do things differently, but they just can't get themselves to either take the first step, or when they take the first step, take this consistently do it until they get their dream result. So the question is, why don't they change for the long term? So some of it is based off genetics. Some of it is based off our environment. But the real reason is what's driving us, right? So what is drive, right? So in psychology, drive means something that gets an organism to do something. So when you're hungry, you're driven to find food. When you're thirsty, you're driven to find water. And the primary drive for most mammals, which includes humans, is for food, water, reproduction, and survival. That's our primary drive as human beings. After that, we got some additional drives. So most people listening right now is not tripping off food, water, reproduction, or even survival. Like back in the day, like we're so wired for survival because like, yo, we was literally in the jungle, right? We didn't have clothing and real shelter. Like we was out there in the wild. Animals could get us. But now survival is just like, it's emotional security. Where it's just like survival for us is just like, yo, I need money. I need power. I need to be accepted. I need to be loved. I want to impress other people. That also drives us. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And so what's interesting is it's like, yo, even though those things drive us, like we want to driven to be successful most often because the mind isn't driven to make us happy. It's driven to make us survive. Jessi, did you know there's even something stronger that drives us than our own survival?
I'm trying to think, like, what is it?
Yeah, because what's interesting, right? We're like, you've probably heard this, right? And you've probably maybe experienced this, right? But in clinical psychology, and physicians really get this, we're just like, yo, some people face life-threatening issues and they go to a doctor for help. Smoking could be the example. Like, yo, you got lung cancer, right? Your lungs or your brain, something is happening because you smoke. And they're just like, even though they're about to die, they're the hardest people to get to change. Like I'm a rehabilitating cigarette smoker at this point, right? And I was listening to a podcast because now I'm trying to quit. I'm listening to stuff that's going to help me do it. And I'm listening to somebody and she's telling her story. She tried to quit 2 times. The first time was because she had a life-threatening issue. And she went to the doctor. They said, stop smoking. Like, Jess, she literally can't breathe on her own. She has this oxygen mask or something. And whenever she has a desire to smoke, she takes off the thing that's keeping her alive to puff. She finishes smoking and she has these crazy fits of coughing, but she continues to smoke. She eventually gets to a point where like she has this real nervous fit. She's trying to get married and her boyfriend finally tells her like, yo, if you don't change this behavior, I'm not going to marry you. That's the thing that finally gets her to change. So if her husband didn't say that, she would have died. So why would she have to die and not, why would she die and not change? Because the thing that drives us more than our survival is to do whatever is familiar over and over and over again to the point that it kills us. So when we say what's familiar to us, that just means familiarity. I can't pronounce that word. And the reason that happened is being familiar with something gives us 3 things, Jess. The first thing it gives us is understanding. So when you understand something, you have clarity, which we all need to change. But we have an understanding and we value doing the things that we've always done because we understand it. We have knowledge, right? So when it's just like somebody's in an abusive relationship and we're like, leave, and they're just like, no, why not? It's because I know him, right? Because clarity leads to knowledge. And when you know a person or know your current situation, that gives you power. And power makes you feel safe. And what safety makes you feel is comfort. So even though it's hurt, that relationship is hurting you, that job is hurting you, that lifestyle is hurting you, you continue to do it because you're comfortable there, right? And what's it called? For real, we're not really comfortable. So I don't even know why we call it a comfort zone, right? Because we wouldn't want to get out of it if it was comfortable. It's really a safe zone.
I was going to say, that reminds me of it being a familiar zone instead of comfort zone.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And it's safe. And the reason why change is so hard because it creates 3 things as well, right? So when we got to change, the first thing is going to happen is confusion. You don't know how to do it. And when you're confused, you feel insecure because you feel like you should know. Like I know how to handle it when my husband snaps. I know how to, or my significant other snaps. I know how to do the job. Like if I got to start my own business, I don't know how I'm going to survive. I don't know how it's going to work. I don't know how I'm going to pay the bill. So that's going to make you feel a little bit insecure inside. which is going to lead to feelings of danger. Like, yo, if I'm confused and insecure, I'm not going to figure out how to grow this business, how to love unconditionally, how to have a successful whatever. And that feels dangerous, right? Because that means you're going to lose something that you really value. And that feels like death. And therefore you feel anxious or super fearful, and that leads to discomfort. And when you're uncomfortable for long enough, that leads to despair or depression if you don't seek the right help. And that's why changing is so hard, because there's so many uncomfortable feelings with change because we're unaware. And that's why coaching and support is really hard. So Bob Proctor used to say, like, yo, you could change your life and be ultra successful without a coach or without help. It's going to be hard because, again, 5% of your conscious mind is fighting against 95% of your subconscious programming, plus the outside world, plus the people that you love that want you to support you that's not going to support you. And unless you have a support group that's going to be like, yo, you tripping, or yo, this is normal, bro, you're going to break before you get anywhere. But I'll end at that, Jess. I think that was enough for this interview.
That's facts. That's facts. And so yeah, just on what you were saying, that put me in the mindset of when you're making those major changes and you don't have enough outside of yourself, like that support group and that coaching. Sometimes it's our own self that we'll start getting in our own head, because how you were talking about, like, all of the, like, you fighting against 95% of yourself, you fighting against everybody else talking to you about, like, oh no, like that sounds stupid. Taking it back to writing your vision down, while you're at one of those steps along the way and you have other people's voice coming into your head and influencing where you think or where you feel that you need to be moving toward and where you need to go, just as powerful and just as much pull as everybody's voice telling you, like, nah, don't try that, it's risky, that's dumb, it's too much. If you don't have that community, that support, that coaching, where you're able to get in the environment where people are being supportive of whatever it is that you're trying to do, the changes that you're trying to make, you kind of fighting a losing battle in the first place, because you're internalizing all of that stuff. Like, even if you like, oh, it's in one ear and out the other, even if it's traveling through, and some of those thoughts, some of those things that are said to you might pause, and it could make you afraid to just take that additional step, where when you have those right folks around you and you at least have that environment that you may perceive as it's an outlet for you, at least you'll have that encouragement that it's like, no, I know everybody else said don't do, but you're not crazy. Like, go ahead and do it. It's gonna be uncomfortable. And really, everybody that's telling you, like, no, 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 don't do it, don't do it, don't do it. It's not that they're telling you don't do it because they want you, they want to cause harm. It's really the same way that you're hesitant because you like, dang, this gonna hurt. They telling you don't do it because they like, no, that's gonna hurt. Not realizing that, like, okay, yeah, there's gonna be some pain at that beginning point, but you have to get past that part so that you're able to fulfill that vision. And when you haven't written it down, haven't thought it all the way through, you weren't even able to articulate that to those people who are trying to help to save you by telling you, don't move forward, don't, push past that hard time, just stay over here on the safe side and don't move forward.
The safe side. Let's go. The safe side.
Stay over here on the safe side. And it's like, no. I know you see a bunch of fire. It's like 3 dinosaurs going past. They look like they're carnivores. I can tell from their teeth. Like, no, we're not going like right there. And it's like, but wait, there is a valley on the other side. And it's like, no, that's okay. We'll just go ahead and stay right here. And it's like, but we starving. You don't see that this up ahead? And it's like, if you don't know the final vision, like, what are you going through all that for? So, yeah, that's what it kind of put me in a mind frame of that. People don't necessarily always have bad intentions when they're encouraging you to not do something. The same things that, essentially, we don't want to hurt. Some of the people that care about us, they don't want us to hurt either. And they perceive themselves as helping by, quote unquote, not letting you get hurt, not realizing that long term, because that pain will just last for a short amount of time in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah.
They aren't looking all the way down the road. So, people could genuinely think that they're helping you by being like, oh, no, 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 stay over here and be scary.
Yeah.
We would call it being scary because,
Yeah.
we looking all the way down
People
5 years, 10 years from now.
people could be genuinely wrong. Right? Like, it's
Okay.
genuine. Like, they legit believe that, and based off their experience and the best knowledge that they have. And that's why what Jess is saying is so important. Where it's just like, yo, find somebody that has the result, because odds are they could. Bob Proctor used to tell me this, and this will be my closing remark, Jess, and then we out. He was just like, if people that come to coach with me, it's just like, yo, here's what you got to understand. One, I need you to, I expect you to do what I say. And that doesn't mean you can't question what I say, but it's just like, yo, once we have that clarity and understanding that, yo, what I'm recommending is the best next step for you, execute. But from there, it's just like, yo, I know what I'm talking about. Right? So, like, I've done this thing. I know what I'm talking about. And in the event that I don't know, I'm actually going to tell you. And
Mm-hmm.
most people aren't that aware, where it's just like they actually know what they're talking about. They assume they know, but most people don't know. So when you find a coach, just make sure they have the result and that they don't know what they're talking about. And if they can't admit that, yo, I don't know, that's a challenge. If they make a mistake and they can't own up to it, that's a sign. Right. So even as coaches, like, yo, you're responsible for a lot of people's lives. Like me, I just like, yo, I'm giving you this advice, but take everything I say or anybody else says with a grain of salt, especially in the areas that matter most to you. And this is why Jess is talking about the journal. We're just like, bro, you can't let nobody define what wealth means for you or finances mean for you, what to do with your kids, what to do with your relationship with God. Those are things you got to find out on your own. You can use other people's information to kind of like get you started, but eventually you're going to have to make that decision on what it means to be wealthy, what it means to be a good parent, what it means to be a good spouse, and what it means to be healthy. You got to decide that on your own, self-awareness and authenticity, and then stick to it with the authenticity part, regardless of what other people said, because you took in the time, done the research, put it on paper, and now you're going to commit to it. But that's all I got, Jess.
That's real. Thank you so much for coming on with us today. And thank you for speaking with our viewers. Of course, I know you guys are going to want it. Of course, we'll have Ben on for a part 2. We appreciate you coming through. We appreciate you guys for watching. And we'll see you next week for another Everybody Can't Go Convo.
Peace.